Primary Tourist, Chapter 18. If only a carnival was coming to town, because there's nothing like it. Not for primary tourists, that is. And it only happens once every 4 years, so it's that much more special. And to think, the most somber task in the world has begun under the guise of the most shallow act. A beauty contest, they call it. And from that, we choose the ruler of the free world. Makes you wonder about democracy, you know what I mean? Because, let's face it, there's nothing more absurd than a carnival. And no one knows that better than Vermin. He was getting ready to descend on us just as Nate had that whole eureka moment at Ware's Beach, figuring out where we were, but not how to get to where we're going. There's the rub. I thought you knew where we were. Yeah, but we're not there anymore. Wow, that's perfect logic. Twisted, but perfect. Take a look at that map over there. I think there's a detail insert to where we want to go. If you say so, I say so. Your wish is my command. But I couldn't find the street. I spoke too soon. I can't find the fucking place. How about right here? He pointed to this tiny little speck on the map. Jesus, either you have excellent vision or I need new glasses. And to tell you the truth, I didn't want to know the answer to that one. Because somehow that blind pointing led right to Moe's Diner. So within a few minutes we were at Moe's Diner, only less than 5 minutes past the official start time of the event. Then why was Ron Paul leaving? The short answer, the fucking media. I guess we need the long answer. There was no doubt that the media was arrogant and out of control, but tourists and professionals alike are used to that these days. For me personally, I've been jostled and thrown about worse on other occasions, but I wasn't at the center of the vortex either. There were a lot of press in a small area, that's for sure, along with throngs of citizens and tourists in a restaurant that a few days from now will be another lazy restaurant where a handful of regulars get their morning breakfast. What I heard after the fact was that Ron Paul's wife was roughed up a bit, and he felt that that was enough and it was time to leave. That sounded like a reasonable response to the pushing and shoving and all-around bullying that the press feels is their constitutional right. But at any rate, the early departure of Ron Paul proved to be fortuitous for us. The parking lot, which we were straggling in from, became ground zero. All the pushing and shoving and one irate candidate came to us. The scrum had come to us. Of course, this was a mixed blessing, especially since the candidate wasn't eager to be seen. Funny how the whole thing worked out. On the one hand, the poor bastards that got here on time were wondering what happened and where he'd go. Meanwhile, us in the parking lot, we were wondering what happened and what's he doing here. Crazy how the carnival plays out, and the real question is, where's the great white during all this? He's around here somewhere. Ron Paul, you are surrounded by the media. Vermin Supreme had his megaphone. Why won't you debate me? That, I believe, sir, is what you call a rhetorical question. The truthful answer is, Jesus, how the hell are we going to get any credibility here when we're debating a guy with a boot on his head? But of course, Vermin knew that. Just because he's Vermin doesn't mean he is a fool. But he is a fool, in the court jester kind of way. It's the fool that can say the truth masqueraded as a joke. Ron Paul was sitting in his SUV answering questions, but I couldn't really hear either him or the questions. I could hear the court jester, though. In fact, when Ron Paul's entourage was ready to leave, it was Vermin that was the traffic cop. Kind of. As Ron Paul's vehicle was slowly moving away from the parking lot, it was Vermin who was waving him on. Come on, Ron Paul. The car started inching out. Come on, Ron Paul. I know you don't want to run me over. That would be very bad press. There were more than tithers, almost guffaws. Nate was filming it all, and watching it later, I realized that probably the loudest laugher was me. I kind of was in heaven, but I had no idea. You are surrounded by the media. There is no escape. And you know, it was true for all of us. It was a real bitch to escape the media. It was part of the dark side of the carnival. You are surrounded by the media. There's no escape. The media owns you now. You are owned by the media. So funny, at least to me, yet so ominous, at least to me. I mean, while he's speaking, all you could hear is clicks and snaps, and all you could see is everybody's camcorder. Everybody's their own media except the media itself, which still was the most ominous, the most in your face, the most fuck you, I own this spot, I'm the media. At this point, another non-traffic cop, was brushing into Vermin, kind of hard, as they both waved the vehicle on its slower-than-slow trail. Don't assault me, sir. Don't touch me with your body. Thank you. And the car was still inching out, and the non-Vermin traffic cop backed off, at least a little. And before you knew it, Vermin owned the street. Still the traffic cop, he could have really made things sticky for Ron Paul, even stickier than what they were, which was pretty fucking sticky. But in actuality, he made it easier for Ron Paul to blow dodge, which is really what he wanted to do. And what did Vermin want? An audience, which Ron Paul supplied him. Of course, he was going to get in one dig before the car pulled away. The chicken dance started playing as the car pulled away. Chicken run, Paul? Everyone was ducking Vermin. That was his story, and he was sticking to it. I am surging in the polls like you wouldn't believe. I am polling at 3%, which would have been truly amazing for a guy with a boot on his head that's promising free ponies. Too bad it was complete bullshit. After Ron Paul himself moved along, Vermin was asking tough questions to the second car of the entourage. Through his megaphone, he asked the driver, "Why is Ron Paul such a chicken? Why won't he debate me? What's the story with that?" Serious, how do you answer those questions? I mean, without saying, because you're a joke, which, as Vermin says, is very bad press. But just as quick as he posed these puzzlers, he was asking the media to get out of the fucking way. Well, he didn't use those words, but I'll tell you, he wouldn't be the only person there that would be murmuring that under his breath. He did seem a little peeved, though, as he was imploring to the mostly cameramen, from what I could tell, "Media, please move. Please make way for the entourage. Please make way for the flakies. Flunkies. Flakies? Flakies or flunkies? That would be flakies, right? Sorry, I can't even coin a phrase today." By this time, the flakies were long gone. Or is it flunkies? Whatever you call them, they were gone, and Vermin had an audience. And believe me, if Vermin wasn't going to say this shit, who was? The zombie stuff, I don't know. I never warmed up to anybody's zombie stuff. But in a funny kind of way, it spoke to me, in the most absurd way. It spoke to me that he was the only candidate that would spend the money on time travel it would take to kill the infant Hitler before he was even born. Hey, if Hitler wasn't born, my parents would have never met. It's a good thing that a vote for Vermin Supreme is a vote completely thrown away. And there is a certain delight in everyone's heart to think of his #1 campaign promise of a free pony for everyone. and a bit of a chill that he would tattoo the pony's ass in your ass, and they better match up, or boy, are you in trouble. And who else will remind us that all politicians are vermin, but only he is vermin supreme? He was the clown, the court jester that made democracy work in a funny kind of way, you know? People thought he was crazy, but they have no clue about crazy. Let them spend one fucking day in this zoo. They'd know, compared to this, Vermin Supreme is not only sane, but stable. But anyway, I'm not doing him justice because a big part of it was the delivery. Kind of like Henny Youngman on acid. Oh, you wouldn't know Henny Youngman, sir. He was before your time. But Vermin was the bomb. For a lot of people, he was the New Hampshire primary. When you think of the Carnival, you think of Vermin. He's crazy, they say, but is he? Any more than anyone else? I mean, how sane is Rick Santorum or Newt Gingrich or any of them? The tinge of crazy was in this year's Carnival. And, as always, it was a gas to be a part of. And I was in the middle of it all. Again. Hell, in '08, I was staying within a block of Concord High School where Barack Obama spoke twice between the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary. It was electric. Hope and change. Who would have thought it? Right in my neighborhood. The first time was the day after Iowa. So hope and change and fired up and ready to go was in the air. Right here a block away from Ron and Erica's. Just a stop removed from victory in Iowa, history was being made. First it was in Iowa, and if he followed that up with a win in New Hampshire, it could all be over very, very soon. Obama didn't have much sleep. It was all adrenaline. The crowd for that first speech was a big chunk of high school kids, it seemed to me, and it was the cool place to be for the high school kids, I'll tell you. Hope and change were cool back then, and he delivered. He was funny, he was poignant, he was inspirational, but what sucks is that he outgrew the retail and retail politics. It was his show, no real town hall feel. It was too late for that. Obama had to do his New Hampshire retail time in the summer and fall. But it always bothered me that he got to say his piece, and he said it real well. But where's the eyeball to eyeball contact right at primary time? It was smothered up in the whirlwind by then. The thing was, it was Hillary who did the more retail-oriented push. And who's to say that that's not why she won New Hampshire? But her events tended to be less accessible for somebody without a car. And tourist that I am, I liked Obama anyway. And he was a block away. It seemed like an easy choice when you factored in that I was a little, I guess, kind of in love with Obama and not with Hillary. Lots of people did fall in love with her, though, and more power to them. Me, I was content with hope and change on a budget, thank you very much. And hope and change is best spread amongst the young. And what better place for that than a high school? It seemed like any student that wanted to could see what turned out to be the next president of the United States. And believe me, lots of students wanted to see him. And they would remember the hope in the air for the rest of their lives. Because where's that hope now? It wasn't so long ago, but it's forever in the life of hope. It seemed like hope was just a young baby then, and now, just a few short years removed, hope is an old man, desperate to hold on to his last wobbly legs. Alive, maybe, but the diagnosis is not good. And let's not even talk about change, because now we all know that change is inevitable, but it isn't always for the better. At the time, though, things were heady for hope and change, and it looked like it might be a juggernaut. That was the glow everyone was experiencing when Vermin came upon Concord High School after Obama spoke. I'm Vermin Supreme, the friendly fascist that knows what's good for you. I'm glad somebody does. But you know what? In a way, doesn't Obama say the same thing? I mean, I hope somebody's in charge of all that hope and change that knows what's good for me. I'm the only candidate that's for mandatory toothbrushing. In all of history, I might add, no other candidate has come out for mandatory toothbrushing, for what it's worth. This country has suffered a moral and oral decay, in spirit and in sizers. I remember seeing Vermin and remember enjoying it, but I don't recall a big or boisterous crowd congregating. Which makes sense. The crowd for the speech was mostly high school kids that had to go back to class. And Obama's diehards may have been smiling, but they wouldn't have any sense of humor when it comes to votes completely thrown away. I'm not so sure it's true. It's more a none of the above vote than one thrown away, even if it's his slogan. A vote for Vermin Supreme is a vote completely thrown away, has a catchier ring than none of the above, I guess. Either way, the way I remember it, I was the sum total of his audience there, and I was gobbling it up. I did have one question, though. What's up with the boot on his head? At this point, it's been there so long, even money he doesn't even remember before there was a boot. Before the boot, he was not any more vermin than all politicians. There was no supreme among the vermin. But I never got it, the boot. But hey, I wasn't about to nitpick because it was important to be a fool there, and I mean that in the most awesome of ways. You know, the great white was as likely to visit a fool as anyone, and besides, it doesn't matter because there's always glory for the fool. If not for the fool, how else would we know the emperor has no clothes? Because one thing's for sure, even if he knows he's naked, the emperor is not telling you, or the emperor in waiting. Hope and Change was naked for all of '08, and all we saw was a leader with compassion, inspiration, and hallelujah brains. Wouldn't that be nice for a change? And don't forget, the Carnival promises many parties, and sometimes the best ones are with the winner. All within a block of where I was staying, on a very mild New Hampshire January night, the night before the primary. They did the whole thing again, this time for adults. Good thing it was so mild, too, because there was a fucking huge line. I had to walk a bit just to find the end of it. And then, while waiting the whole time, I was wondering if I'll even get in. So, all that was left to do was shuffle up a few steps every now and then and just take in the atmosphere. There was a lot of Obama merchandise being hawked like it was a ball game. Hope and Change was winning at the top of the ninth, and you'd better get your piece of history now, or who would know you were there? I did get in, although not too close to Obama. The pre speech atmosphere was real different from the same place with the same candidate just a few days before. It seemed more like a party at night, a little early for the coronation. But there was a feeling like it was going to be wham bam, thank you, Mrs. Clinton, and then close enough to the presidency to taste it. Nobody knew it was going to be a long battle. Nobody except for Obama. The advance team knew it was their job, their calling for it to happen. That's the thing the guy handing out Ron Paul stuff learned. He wasn't hoping for the right change. Time to move along. So, those that remained could feel history happen, can watch it happen right in January of 2008, the beginning of time, when all was possible, the light at the end of a dark, dark time. And it starts to end tonight. Superstition by Stevie Wonder filled the air, making people want to dance and then choose a leader. For now, they're fired up and ready to go. Michelle Obama started it off, and start was on her mind. Hope and change is where things start, not where they end. We all knew today, will be better. It's not the happy ending, not just yet. Hold on to your Nobel Prize, but not for very long. It all was going to happen in less than 24 hours. That's how he began. In the beginning, indeed. History itself just beginning, right here, right now. Isn't that the only place to be, sir, when all is said and done? Like we have a choice, right? And there you had it. The main event, the real deal, at least to this primary tourist, was on center stage, soaking in the moment, which is gone already. And he knew about that concept. You could tell by his rhetoric. He was quoting Dr. Kin talking about the urgency of now, the only time that ever mattered. And he knew the secret that others amazingly forgot. The bottom tier of society may be lower than low, but they would be his boss as president. And he acknowledged that by stating that change in America never happens from the top down, but from the bottom up. And then, of course, he talked about change itself. This change thing must be catching on. Everybody's talking about change. A solitary female voice cried out, "Don't change yourself, Obama." You know I won't do that. Not only could he inspire, he could flirt. The complete package, indeed. And he was right about change. After Iowa, with Obama and Huckabee winning for each page, change was everybody's mantra. The day after Iowa, Romney's webpage announced Mitt Romney, candidate for change, which was a perfect Mitt Romney thing to do. You know what I mean, sir? What is it they say? Run it up the flagpole and see which way the wind is blowing? That's Mitt trying to catch a draft. You could just feel in the room that Obama was going to win the next day and it would all be over. He'd get in the White House and what? What did we think would happen? Was he going to part the Red Sea? There's always hope, I guess. At least there was then. But there was something missing. Usually, New Hampshire was a good place to see the candidate up close before they became too big. Obama, though, was already king size, bigger than life. Almost too good to be true. That doesn't last forever. Like this session. See you next time. Primary Tourist, Chapter 19. Nice to meet you, ma'am. You probably want to know about that little disagreement I had earlier this week. Well, to me, the most important thing is it's not my fault. I just wanted my shower, that's all. I'm supposed to get 2 a week, and it had been at least 10 days since the last one. Unacceptable. I'm sorry, but what would you call it? And they know it, too. But they'll see what they can get away with. That's the MO around here. Just because we're here doesn't mean we're blind. We're not all crazy, you know. Just some of us. So anyway, a couple of nights ago, maybe Saturday, I think it was, I asked for my shower. And they said, your schedule says first shift Mondays and Wednesdays. Well, as I already told you, that's pure unadulterated bullshit. And the guy was like, that's it. You're not really entitled. He didn't say that, but sometimes you don't have to. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like, hey, man, it's not really my job. If we can, but it's not really my problem. Which went right up my ass, pardon my French. He kept pointing to the schedule like I didn't understand the first 20 times he told me, and I kept on telling him that fucking schedule was bullshit like he didn't understand the first 50 times I told him. I got loud, it got heated, what can I say? And I said something about the law, you and he knows there's laws about how often you bathe, and this shithouse was nowhere near being compliant with minimum bathing requirements. And I said that. I said I was going to report this bullshit to authorities, and he gave me this smirk. And that really pissed me off. I'll tell you, though, things got heated and all that shit, but push comes to shove, I got my shower. And I got two since then. It's true, I'll tell you, the squeaky wheel gets the grease every fucking time. Well, if you have any questions about it, I hope this answers them. What's that? Was I acting appropriately? That's kind of a hard question. I mean, I know what I'm supposed to say, how I'm supposed to feel. I know the poor guy was doing his job and it's not his fault, yada, yada. But how about me? Do you really think it's okay to sit in my own grime while people decide whether or not to bathe me? Do you really think that you'd be cool with that, ma'am? While you're asking me these questions, I got a couple for you. How would you feel? What would you do? Any answers? I didn't think so. Me either. Questions are good, don't get me wrong, but it seems to me that until you can answer those two questions, well, where's your right to get answers from me? I'm still waiting for your answer. Take your time. I got nothing but time.
Come on, Ron Paul. Come on. Come on. I know you don't want to run me over. That would be very bad. That would be some very bad press. Come on, Ron Paul. Okay. Uh-oh, you are surrounded by the media. There is no escape. The media owns you now. You are owned by the media. Don't assault me, sir, please. Don't even touch me with your body. Thank you.
Yeah. You got a boot on you. What did you say?
All right. Okay, fine. What are you? Chicken Ron Paul? Ladies and gentlemen, Ron Paul, everybody, give it up for him!
Give it up for Vermin!
What's going to go as Vermin Supreme, the friendly fascist, the tyrant that you can trust? Let me run your life. I am surging in the polls like you would not believe. I am polling at 3%. I could be at... Why is Ron Paul such a chicken? Why won't he debate me? What's the story with that? Please, media, look out. This car's trying to get through. Media, please move. Please make way for this entourage. Please make way for the flackies. Flunkies. Lackeys. Lackeys and flunkies, that would be flackies, right? Sorry, I coined a term today. What's it going to cost, Roman Stream? Friendly fascist, tyrant you can trust. Let me run your life. I know what is best for you. The only candidate who stands for mandatory toothbrushing laws in America. The only candidate who stands for zombie preparedness. Where does Ron Paul stand on zombie preparedness? Not very good, I'm afraid. Yes, time travel research. I am going to go back in time and kill the infant Hitler before he's even born. And, of course, Vermin Supreme stands for free ponies for all Americans. That's right, friends. And it's not just any free pony for all American job program. It is the free pony identification federal program. That's right, it's a federal pony identification program. And you and your pony will receive matching tattoos on your ass. And if they don't match up, you are in big trouble with the secret dental police. So this election year, vote early, vote often, and a vote for Vermin Supreme is a vote completely thrown away. Thank you. Vermin Supreme, the real love revolution. Love is my middle name.
Woo! Yeah!